Welcome back to another episode. This is the continuation of The Legend of Esper. We finally pull up to the docks, the harbor, at Corwin. And if we remember, the harbor master is Damon. So let's say it's early morning. It took about a day's travel from Haldreth all the way up the coastline up to Corwin. Now, we want to know if Damon is present, if he is on the docks, if he's in his office. Most definitely he is here. But the world of Escabur is quite unpredictable at times, so let's ask the Oracle if he's actually at the docks this morning. So we're going to our Oracle, and I'm going to say very likely he's here. So let's roll away. Very likely. The roll 43 confirms he is indeed here. Now, let's figure out what exactly he's doing. So, subject of what he is doing, Damon is currently outside. Okay, that's perfect. And then the action, what is he doing? I should say. 13 is decrease. Okay, outside decrease. Now, decrease meaning is he walking away? Like he's decreasing in distance from us? I'm sorry. Well, actually, that could work. He's approaching us, so he's decreasing in distance. Actual, how far he is from the boat. So, our boat, which is pretty large, it pulls up. Remember, we're kind of hitchhiking at this moment. We pull up, we dock. Him and probably a few of his dock hands, who is also Galera, she is his wife, our character's stepmother. She also works the docks, but I'm going to say she's somewhere else. She's just working somewhere else in the docks. Not a huge dock. It's not a huge harbor of a fleet, but it's probably 3 or 4 docks. She's probably working somewhere else. And Damon sees the boat approaching. He has no idea it's us. Mortar and Hulf are sitting down, just kind of observing as they pull up, and a couple of dock hands and Damon are tying up the rope, and the boat's tossing the rope up, and the shipmates are tying the rope to the boat. The boat just kind of touches the wood, um, the path, and it's safe to disembark. Now, Hulf stands up, and Mortar then stands up. They're looking at the docks. Mortar doesn't whisper, but Mortar says to Hulf right behind him that the docks are run by their father, and he should be here. So Hulf says he'll keep an eye out. He wants to make this a nice surprise. We can't forget there is the urgency of the Master and his little plot line that he is doing something up there in the mountains of Pantheon, the peaks of Pantheon. He is up there at Esper Peak, most likely, trying to speak or approach the Esper Dragon, who we also detailed is withering away due to the fight years ago between the Master and the Dragon. So the Esper Dragon is about to kick the bucket, and the Master was hoping, I'm thinking ahead here, was hoping to acquire his body as a host to take over the dragon's body. That could pay off because the dragon could be too weak to mentally fight back against the Master's attack. The Master is, remember, he's shapeless right now. He does not have an actual physical form. He's been obliterated, killed. So now he's in this dark bending. He has the dark realms being empowered by the entity. Now, I also want to mention from a commenter in the last video, kudos to, I think Chris is his name, um, mentioned a possible similarity to another inspired movie character, Apocalypse from Marvel. Apocalypse, lived thousands of years ago, was the first mutant, I believe, and soon, developing power. Whether it's the movie Apocalypse or it's the comics, whichever one you want to prefer. Basically, a mutant that became power hungry and started acquiring technology from aliens and powers and mutants. He has multiple mutant abilities of himself. While the Master was just a regular Eldorian and who stumbled upon, being the first one to stumble upon a portal that goes into the Dark Realms. Thus, he became imbued and corrupt. He was the host at time, which is a Black Adam aspect. The wizard chose Black Adam, but Black Adam was corrupt by the power. So in this case, the entity's evil. The wizard is kind of a neutral good character, I think, depending on how I want to see it. Chaotic good. But the entity's evil wanted to use the master as a host, as an avatar, I should probably should say, and do his bidding in the real world. The entity cannot physically walk the physical realm of reality in the first dimension. So he needs a servant. He needs an avatar. So the master took the power, but over time the master was the power corrupted him. He was just too. He was immortal and became corrupt, and he lived for hundreds of years. And I'm thinking if we go the Lobo route from DC, Lobo killed his entire race. I'm thinking that maybe it makes sense. The Eldoranians are gone. The Master is responsible for killing and annihilating his entire race, the Eldoranians, which were humans. um, Commenters, go for it. Phil, let me know what you think about that. I'll keep that up in the air. Again, his backstory, we'll never really encounter it until the Master talks to, if either of our characters even approach him in the near future. He'll probably talk about that or spill the beans. But I'm thinking that makes sense. The Eldoranians just are gone, and left behind is a few murals and ruins and a castle and the Temple of Dragon, which was the Master's home. So yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay, we're back to sorry for that tangent, but again, I'm so heavily invested into the past of this lore, and it's becoming uh it's building very well, I think. So the Hulk is looking around, and he does see a older gentleman. He sees let's see, remember Decrease as Damon approaches the boat. Let's go to Corwood because that's where we are now. He sees this Damon in his wares, in his work, his outfit as harbor master. Now, Damon is looking down. He's tying up the rope. The crew steps off. A lot of the crew are carrying crates, giving it to trade merch, whatever they want, whatever they're doing. They're doing business transactional process. And Holf steps to the ladder or to the plank. There's this little piece of wood, this plank that's put between the dock and the boat, and Holf steps up to it. He's looking at the old man who's tying rope and stands up and wipes off some sweat, even though it's really cold out probably, but maybe he's been working pretty hard. So I'm thinking they're all bundled up pretty well. They're all wearing a lot of heavy clothing. Holf probably has his face covered and is looking at he's looking directly at Damon with a very just stern look. Again, that's one of his aspects, stern authority. Authority, looking right at Damon. Yes, Damon. Damon looks up and then sees Holf. Doesn't recognize him at first. Holf is just standing there like kind of confused. What's going on? Mortar is standing behind Holf, kind of in the back. He's kind of distant, so then there's a level difference between Damon's position and the boat. There's a plank between the two. So Mortar is a little shorter. Mortar shorter. That should be a shirt. Shorter Mortar is standing um, kind of a few feet back, and he's then steps up and then reveals himself. He's wearing heavier clothing, but his face is showing. He pulls down his scarf, and Damon eyes light up. He goes and he says, "Son, you made it!" And then processing little the beach ball, Mac beach ball. He looks to Holf. Damon drops like maybe he's holding like a tool or something. Drops a tool, and he does this. He's like, "Son, is that you?" I'm trying to remember what Damon's character is based on, if I even did anything. Let's go to our lore sheet. Han, so- Han Solo. Oh, right. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, not a younger Han Solo, the older Han Solo from the recent, very well made Dragon Ball Star Wars films. um, I don't know. I'm kind of iffy on the whole Han Solo thing. Maybe his earlier years. I'm not too sure what to base his character on. But if I'm saying Han Solo, let's say older Han Solo. Let me actually show you guys what I'm doing here because I'm completely not showing you what I'm looking at. My apologies. Let's see. So older Han Solo. I guess it does make sense. I mean, he's much older now, Han Solo, in the recent Star Wars films. Whether you hate him or love him, I was not really a fan, but I still saw them, so I like Star Wars in general. Uh, he is wiser, still kind of adventurous, but wasn't like retired from, if I recall correctly from The Force Awakens, he was still helping with the rebellion, so that was obvious, and that's kind of what that was. I guess that actually works out pretty well because Damon was acting in his own interest, and he was trying to help his loved ones seeking the power of the Dark Realms or being entranced, if I recall correctly. So yeah, he is adventurous, but he's at a turning point in his life where he needs to retire and settle down, and he is at that point. So if Han Solo and the movie survived past The Force Awakens, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen him, um, he probably would have settled down and then retired somewhere on with Leia, who also didn't make it. But again, I'm not here to review the recent Star Wars trilogy. But I guess it does make sense in regards to Damon's adventurous. He probably was, in his earlier years. He did go through a lot with, the Ashford and then traveling up north. So that does make sense and became kind of a dockhand. So he probably could have gone places, that could have been someone, could have been a contender. But, Ashford was destroyed. He fled to Haldreth and then eventually fled north. So he did go through some stuff. So maybe the Han Solo, older Han Solo, is applicable here. But anyways, he sees Hoth, and he's doing this, and he goes, Hoth, is that you? And Hoth steps down the plank. He walks up to his father. He's taller. There's definitely a drastic difference in height. Lowers his face covering, removes his hood, and he shows his face to his father, and he says, "Hello, father." I'm sure to remember the whole Carl Urban Judge Dredd persona. So again, he's a theory. He's very stern. I like to use that word a lot. Uh, Authority figure, very brass and rough around the edges, but he does care about family. It's all about family. So Vin Diesel removes his face coverings and it says, "Father, I've returned." And Damon just breaks out in tears and hugs Holf. Holf is just standing there like this, not sure what to do. Pats Damon on the back. He's like, "Yes, yes, yes. Let it all go." And then Mortar smiles and kind of removes a hat or something, and he smiles and he walks down the plank, also hugs, and Damon is like just tearing up. He's so happy to have both his kids back, minus the wife. And so while they finish the hug and the whole sentimental moment, Damon steps back and says, "I was surprised you have come by boat. I thought you would have traveled up north by foot." And Paul thought, well, by boat was the safest path. Um, he's gesturing he says to Mortar, "None of this would have happened if it wasn't for your younger son, Mortar, for my little brother, Mortar. This was all him. The amount of courage and fight in his soul that led him to find me at my most darkest hour. He saved my life." Which he didn't like physically save his life, but being there, he's brought the family back, which was kind of Hulk's original intent after I developed the story a bit, was to find family. That was literally one of his fate aspects, was to find his family. And he did. And so, Hulk's consistency and survival tied with Mortar's destiny and push to find Hulk. It all worked out. Like so, Hulk starts to tear up and he's like, I was just so happy that you're here. There's so much I need to tell you. There's just so much that's going on. And Hulk puts his hand on Damon's shoulder and says, Father, we do have indeed a lot to catch up on, but there is something foul at play here. Something dark. We need to speak about this right away. We find the place in secret. And Damon's taking off his tears. He's like, "What do you mean? What's happening, little one?" Little one, and again, I'm like the height difference. What are you talking about, little one? And he says, "Father, we have to speak about this enclosed. Can we speak it back in your?" There's like there's a little booth with like a little building attached to the dock. I don't know it's the harbor, his quarters. I'll just say quarters. So, and Damon's like, "Yes, but we have to tell Mother about you." And so he's looking in the distance and he sees Galera, or not Mother. I guess I have to introduce you to Galera. She's the love of my life. I married her years after we lost your mother. What was the mother's name, actually? Did we ever think about their biological mother's name? I don't think so. Let's go to the document. Let's go to Ashford. I thought I did, but I might have just missed it or not noted it some time ago, or missed a chance to note it. Married to Clara's stepmother. Let's say his first wife, widow, was. Let's see. So Clara's his current wife. Let's say Nancy. Nancia. Oh, what the hell? Nancia. Okay, Nancia. So I'm just throwing that out there. I could be entirely wrong. I might have had a name for the original wife. I probably did. Original mother. I probably did. But Nancia. So he's like, after Nancia's death in Ashford, I was hopeless. I was lost, and after we came up here with Mortar, and he looks to Mortar. I found someone. Lara, she gave me hope. She took care of us. You will, I believe you will see her as your new mother. As he's looking up, so she is very kind, passionate, like Mortar, strong like you, has been through so much. I have things to share for you, my son. And then he's looking in the distance, and he calls out Glara. He does this. He yells Glara. On the distance, Glara is talking with a merchant. She turns around. She waves, and then he's trying to insist to come over here. And then she sees the taller gentleman with Damon and Mortar, and her eyes light up, and she shouts, Mortar! And then she jogs up to Mortar and hugs Mortar. So glad to see you! And she starts to tear up, and then she looks to the taller gentleman to the right. And she's like, who was this? Wait. Oh, and let me pull up her character just so I'm kind of role playing correctly here. Galera is Aunt May. Okay, so Aunt May is very caring, very strong. Has a tendency to die in some Spider-Man. Actually, I think she only died in the recent Spider-Man movie. Don't recall the previous two uh, Spider-Man. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and don't recall. Anyways, um, yeah. Again, she's strong in her own right. She's very caring and she's very accepting and welcoming and is willing to help anybody. She's very wise. So again, Aunt May. Um, she clears her throat. She's like, "Who is this? Is this?" She looks to Mortar and Damon. Is this what? Is this Hulk? And Hulk, he nods once. He said, I am. You must be Clara. And I'm sure Mortar, talked about Clara. And he says, I want to thank you for all these years you've taken care of my father and my brother. I am eternally in your in your debt. And then she's like, oh, please, the formalities. And she just come over here and she hugs him. And again, Hulk is like, just kind of unfazed by this because I'm trying to remember that he's the Dread. So, but again, he is at heart a very good person. Um, so she goes, "What? We need to have supper. I mean, or we need to get you some food. I'm sure you all both are famished." And Paul says, "Yes, we are, but there is a dire situation unfolding, and we need to speak to Damon. Maybe have a minute." And Damon says, "Ulf, whatever you have to tell me, Galera is part of this family now. Let's go back to my quarters." So they Ulf's like, so be it. And they proceed on to all four of them proceed on to their quarters. Open the door. They go inside. There's a table, some chairs, random documents, and it's pretty messy because again they've been neglecting this. Well, the original Forward family regime was neglecting the harbor, mismanaging it, and it's been complete cluster freak. I know I do curse on this show or this my channel a lot, but I'll let this one. I'll just say cluster freak. Um, so yeah, they sit down. Mortar is just kind of listening again. Mortar has experienced quite a bit, but he wants Holf to detail because Holf has been the main pillar of this adventure. He's experienced most of with against the master. So I mean, this could be a very gripping scene. I'm trying to think if it's entirely necessary to detail every single word that's spoken. But basically, what he says is that after he goes through a bit of history, so talks about Ashford being raised by Edwin, and then living in Septane for some time. Edwin was obsessed with the Dark Realms, which they're familiar with. Clara, I'm sure, was filled in too. They're all experiencing the Dark Realms. And Damon does have a connection to the Dark Realms. He's not really a character on a sheet here, but he does indeed have, on the older side, so I don't think he actually has any dark bending abilities that Holf and Mortar have a very limited scope of, unless they're closer to the portal. Then their powers are magnified tenfold. They practically go Super Saiyan at that point. So they're talking, and he's saying that Edorin was obsessed with Dark Realms. I don't know why, but we recently learned that he was trying to. I think I talked about this. I spewed so much detail exposition in my last video. I lost track of what I was saying. I lost track of what was stated, but when it was stated. If I talked about Edwin was trying to destroy the Dark Realms, the portals, but then eventually got caught in a time paradox because of the entity, if that was just me saying it based on past details, or that it was what Edwin was saying in a spirit form to the boys, to both of them, the brothers, on the boat in that vision. Yeah, I'm going to assume he did. I'm going to say he did. And so he fills him in saying that Edwin was trying to find a way to destroy the Dark Realms because of the Master. And Damon's like, the Master? Who's that? Because again, Damon thinks that the village was attacked by a dragon, the Esper dragon. Damon's like, no. Or Ulf's like, no, that's not what happened. It was the Master. I threw some shenanigans with another companion of mine. I will talk about him later. Jory. Um, who was also a backstabber. We fought the Master, Father, and we killed him. We destroyed his physical form. And Damon's very impressed. Galera's listening. She's doing this. She's like listening attentively, like this is like a movie she's watching, like eating popcorn. Mortar is just kind of also listening. He wasn't ever really there until the post destruction of the temple, so he's listening. Damon is very engaged with what's going on. He's like this on a table. Glare is like this, kind of like biting her teeth, like what's happening. Damon's and Holt is sitting there, all stern, authoritative, and so he says, after we defeated the Master, that's when Mortar showed up, and Edwin once again showed himself. He is actually walking this plane, Father. Your brother still exists somehow in this realm. But at the same time, he's dead. And so that's where Damon becomes shocked because he now learns his brother's dead. He's like, Edwin, I thought he was always dead at this point, but I didn't realize he was alive for some time, just like you. Or we miss so much, and he starts to regret like traveling north. I regret so much. And Hulf is like, Father, listen, none of this is your fault. This was all the master. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The master's responsible for all of this. He has the powers of the dark on his disposal. And now we feel, based on some very compelling evidence, that he's going to go seek the power of the dragon. And so Damon's confused, like, I thought he was a dragon. And Hulf clears the air and said, no, he was a mortal. Or he was an empowered mortal, like you or I. But he had such dark bending abilities. He could take the form of a dragon. I'm not sure for how long. But when we fought him, he did indeed turn into the dragon form that attacked our village years ago. But now, as I saw with my own eyes, Warder, I believe he did too. He has some form of strange light. He flew up into the sky and traveled this direction, north. This is why we are here, Father. Not just to reunite with us, but we need to stop him. If he's able to get the power of the Esper Dragon. And then, again, Dana's like, the Esper Dragon? Claire's like, the Esper Dragon? Some guy outside like the window's like, Esper Dragon, man, this is crazy. Closes the shutter. No, so basically, the Claire and Damon are like, the Esper Dragon's is just a myth, an urban legend. And Paul's like, I'm willing to think that too, Father. But too much points in this direct. Too much evidence points to that direction that the dragon is real, and we don't know what force he represents on this realm. If the Esper Dragon was responsible for defeating the Masters, as Edwin has explained, I think again that could be a plot hole. I don't recall if the internet talked about the dragon or what's a Shafa. Anyways, I'm going to assume that Hulf is calculating the possibility, or is thinking the possibility that the Esper Dragon fought the Master, which explains his defeat years in Limbo. And he says the Esper Dragon, if he is indeed real, and he looks, he kind of points in the general direction of the Esper Mountains, that, that I have to go up there myself and encounter the Esper Dragon and defeat the Master once and for all. If he's able to get the power of such a mighty beast, we will have no Northern Island, and soon the South will be also in danger. And remember, while all this is happening, this is something that really works well in a very a world setting that's growing and is alive, flourishing, metaphorically. While, remember, our party decided to travel north, leaving behind Haldreth, Jory, the Arcane, and Shafa's defeat, with the King Jenkins and his shenanigans, his plot. While we're up here dealing with saving the Northern Island, which, it was a decision Hulf and Mortar made together, they left behind a potential conflict that is going to unfold. So while things are happening here, I have to remember that the world is moving somewhere else. Because I'm not a professional game master. I'm trying to work on my skills in world building. This is the first real world I've been building to this scale, to this magnitude, all on this document and up here. But it's like I have to remember when you push and shove one part of the story, another is going to come back at you and bite you in the ass. Because we left behind a huge plot that the arcane are now going to fight back and influence and gain power and authority in Haldreth and in neighboring locations. King Jenkins is a conduit, is an extension of a partnership with the arcane. And so using his power and authority, he's going to also claim victory and grow and expand his power. So the Arcane and King Jenkins, they're going to have this partnership, this allyship that is going to cause a complete has to have detrimental effects across the land of the Southern Island. All of that's happening. It depends on when we come back to it. So whenever we do in the next arc or two, even if it's a new character, I might have to create one. My idea I had, by the way, was to have the next arc or two, depending on how long this arc goes, is have a character down here in Cornerstone. We haven't been down here yet. We don't know much about Cornerstone. It is in a very healthy part of the southern island. It's very green, doesn't get any snow. It's a very livable area. The air is clean. Crime probably is low. So Cornerstone is probably the most safest location to live in the southern island during this time. Septane is the most mysterious. Haldorf is the most isolated, but also, well, I shouldn't say isolated. It's very closed off, but probably the rule of it, the authoritarian rule, is what drives away a lot of people and keeps it on the control of the Veil, the 12, I think. Let's go check the document. What was that called? The 12 something dark side. It is the Sacred 12. So the Sacred 12, they're not very sacred per se, but Haldorf is the biggest city. It's just crowded. It's like Coruscant in Star Wars. Cornerstone is the most peaceful, and it is a medium-sized settlement. It's probably a bit between Corwood size and Haldorf size. So all in all, and as I'm trying to say is that the Southern Islands will continue to move on without our characters. That's it. So while Damon says, "Son," he's conflicted because again, the Northern Island is their home. He doesn't want it to be destroyed by this absolutely insane potential of a dragon. Damon, you just came back to me after all these years, 20, 30 years. I thought you were dead. Your uncle is dead. Mortar probably almost lost his life trying to save mine, and now you want to go up there yourself and stop a potential risk, a potential danger. And Hulf understands. Let's see, Father, listen, I know. I cannot just sit here and let all of you. He doesn't want to say he doesn't, die or something, risk. He's like, I have to do this, Father. It's in my blood. The way Edmund raised me was to fight back, was to learn, to grow, and to survive. I may not have had a family for some time. Edmund was no true father, as you were, but he did teach me well. He taught me a lot, how to survive, how to fight, how to shoot an arrow, how to handle adversaries of any size, any nature. This is something I must do. Then Damon says, I cannot stop you from doing what you think is right, son. But I can't help. It's all of us like, what do you mean? He looks to Mortar. He goes, Mortar, you have clearly outgrown me. You have outgrown this place. What do you say you go help your brother and stop this master? And Mortar's quiet. He's thinking about it. He says, of course, to be with my brother, to go on such a life-threatening. I'm trying to think of how, like, again, Bilbo or hold on one second. I'm sorry, I was mistaken this entire time. Not Bilbo, Frodo. Frodo Baggins for Lord of the Rings, not his I believe his father, but yes, Frodo. That is who I'm trying to convey here. Frodo. So what would Frodo do here? He'll of course say yes. He wants to go on an adventure. He needs to protect his brother. He says, "Of course, I will indeed go. I need to help my brother. I need to cover his back. I'm sure he can't handle the whole dragon by himself." And Hulf kind of smirks and says, "Yes, quite. But we need to stock up. We need weapons, armor. If I What of help?" And then he looks. The Damon's thinking, "Well, we can speak to." He looks to Mortar because Mortar had kind of a connection. I mean, there is what's her name? Let's go back to the cast here. There was a connection he had with the Union. Ellery. Ellery could join, but the problem is, okay, so they're saying looks to Mortar and then Glare. Remember, Glare kind of has this little like um, jealousy to Ellery. Damon's not cheating on her with Ellery. That's obviously not happening. But she's very like, yeah, are you? So I can see Aunt May doing that too. With Uncle Ben, if it, Uncle Ben was getting freaky with someone else. But basically, Ellery is obviously an option to help. And so Damon looks to Mortar, glances at Clara, and says, "Well, there is someone that I know who can probably help with the Corwood. Well, he says the Corwood has gone through quite a bit. A we've had bad leadership in the past 10, 15 years, and we just recently overthrew them with the help, of course, Mortar here." And Wolf is like, "That's new information to me. I missed quite a lot up here, haven't I?" Damon's like, "Indeed. But we need to speak to well, the new man in charge." He's mentioning, I think he's mentioning, if I recall correctly, Sarah. So Sarah, we can't forget, he's dying of some illness. Illness, trademark, copyright. I don't know. It's some old plague illness. Not really a plague per se, but something very cancerous. And so Damon's like, I just don't know who they can spare. I mean, they are the new governing body of this settlement. Things have been quite progressive. We've become much more stable, and we're hoping they turn things around for the settlement. You can go speak to them, and please mention me, mention Lara, ask for Ellery. She can probably help. Oliver's like, this is a great idea. We can probably use her help. She sounds fantastic. And Mortar's like, you don't know the half of it. She's amazing. And so they stand up, they hug once more, and Oliver says, thank you, Father. We will go speak to Ellery, we'll go speak to this Sarah, we'll see what we can do. But before we depart, if we're able to get proper weapons, armor, and gear, we'll stop by once more and have a true family feast. And Dana smiles, Clara smiles, she's like, oh, fantastic, I can cook for both of you. And so they hug again, and then they depart. So we're now leaving the docks, the harbor, and we're going to the center Corwood Manor, where she's dead. Sarah and Ellery are most likely located. And that's all I'm going to do with this episode. This week is a work week for me, so I have to keep things not short, but not fully invested. I do indeed feel like this was a very good episode, a good formalic one in some respects, but also quite revealing. And we're setting up probably the next half of this current arc. So remember, notes for me and notes for you, as I always try to remember to do. The team is going to go speak to Ellery and Sarah in the Corwood Manor, inquiring to say hi. Holf is going to introduce himself to who he is. Mortar is going to reunite with Ellery and Sarah and catch up probably on a few things. But while the focus of the plot here, the focus of this plot point is to inquire about first weapons, armor, and gear, but help if they can to tell them, try to convince Ellery and Sarah. Ellery is like next in line for mayor because Sarah is ill, dying. So convince them for help to spare some bodies despite the new governance that's taken shape, and also mention the return of the master if they know about it, and probably secretly without causing panic in the town, in the settlement, is to mention the existence, or at least first keep that a secret. Probably say that they have a big journey to undertake, going up to the Esper Peak, going up to the mountains. Maybe they can do like a white lie and say it's a leftover misfits still survive, because again, the camp is still out there, that's for sure. But if I'm not mistaken, we defeat the misfits in its entirety. So maybe that could be another plot twist. But again, I believe I left that up to interpretation. So those are the current tasks at hand. Find gear, find help, introduce Holf to the team, Ellery and Sarah, and mention what they're wanting to do, because they won't just give their gear away for free. However, Mortar did indeed help stop the Corwood family regime and flip things, which probably would be more than enough to let them give them some gear for free and stuff like that. So that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you for watching as always, and I will see you in the next one.